Good morning. So welcome back to yoga. The roof is on the house and there is no pounding today, which is really nice. So with the new roof and no pounding, we shall come to do our yoga practice today. So I have some new moves for us. I always try and bring something a little different or just either for fun or for awareness. This one will be a standing balance pose and the precursor to the standing warrior three, letter T. And it helps us cultivate awareness on the back extensors, the hip extensors. And so bringing that leg back and up parallel requires actually some glute strength as well as core strength as well as balancing. And so for that, if you, depending on where you're practicing, if you want to grab a chair to have at the end of the mat so that if you're reaching with both arms out in front, you can steady yourself or have something to the side so you can get into full warrior three. So that's coming up a little bit later, but we have to warm up and lubricate. Also want to give you an invitation to send me messages about if you need certain things from your practice. I'll always try and include them since I can't converse with you directly and you say, well, my back is killing me or my shoulder, then send me a message, excuse me. Okay, let's come to Namaste. I'm going to go sit on my mat. So take a seat. Can be in a chair, can be sitting Sukhasana, ankles crossed. If it's better for your knees, have one leg out. Address Mula Bandha, the pelvic floor energy. Draw in through the lower belly, which I gotta say in my yard work yesterday was really important to lend support to the back. Lift and lengthen the spine. Lift through the crown of your head or your little bun if you have one. Shoulders are down. You can either support the back with hands on your legs or float them up in a yoga mudra gesture. The eyes are open, lowered, or closed. Knowing that your body is well supported, turn your attention to your breath. What is the tempo of your breath? What is the pace of your breath? Can you make it more well-rounded so that it expands and contracts? Kind of an opening, expansion, and then a tightening, contract. Be aware of how your body is responding to the breath. So we're going to take a breath in and hold it for an instant, and then same thing when you breathe out. So do your inhalation as long as that takes you. Pause an instant. Use your exhalation as far out as you can release. Pause a second. Returning to your neutral or natural breath. Opening the eyes if they're not already. And while sitting tall in your pelvis, let's begin slowly, small circles, moving slowly in small circles. So at this part of our practice, we're just investigating. We're just seeing how the body is feeling before we do things that are kind of fun and crazy or easy. Let's go the other direction. So every practice is a different practice. We come to it with a perhaps different perspective, or our body is a little different. Knowing that, let's just be all accepting. Pausing, sitting nice and tall, bandhas and breath, and turning your head from side to side. In the presence of breath. And letting your ear drop from shoulder to shoulder. Sometimes after a night's rest, your neck or shoulders feel a little tight. So just let them go where they will. Nothing is forced. Last one is where we bow the chin down and lift the chest up. So bow the head down, lift the chest up rather than crunch the neck. Of course, you figured out when to breathe in and when to breathe out. And then pausing center. If you're sitting with your ankles crossed, can you switch them? Otherwise, you can stay as you are. Place right hand behind you, either on the floor, I'm sitting on my blanket, or if you're in the chair, just the back edge of the chair. Draw that right shoulder back. Just look off to the side of your space. Just working on the lengthening, feeling nice and tall. Maybe look a little behind you. And return center. Same thing other side. So position left arm back. Draw left shoulder back. Now that's started, so now the right shoulder can go forward. Just look to the side of your space. And then turn and look behind you. And return center. Let's bring the knees up. So if you've been sitting in a chair, come down. I'm going to turn sideways. And you can be on a blanket, a pillow, or just sitting on your bum. And the feet can be together or apart, so wherever you feel comfortable. And the hands are going to lace at the fingers or clasp at the hands around the knees. Anchor your shoulders. This is like a cat and cow. Draw in from your belly and press your back out. So in this one, you want to feel the broadening between the shoulder blades. Now using your hands, pull your chest forward. So instead of the backs broadening, the backs and your angel wings are contracting as the chest moves forward. This is your inhalation. Exhalation. Inhalation. So if you need a little more space between your thighs, you can move your feet out a little bit or wider. So usually we're all really good with the cat, the rounding, because we do a lot of this. Think about it. Where we have challenges in the extension of the back, where we're actually using the muscles. So the next time you come nice and tall, pause before you keep going forward, just upright, and let those legs extend outward. Right away, take the hands behind you, either on a blanket or on and for those of you with tight hamstrings already, bend the knees a wee bit and get the spine nice and tall. So feel comfortable in your torso. Have a little relaxation in the knees, unless you can do this with your legs straight. And then let the heart lead forward. So just a little hinge. For some of us, we're not going to go very far. For some people, you may hinge out pretty far. This is early in our practice. So a little more grace and ease by bending the knees. You can get a little further forward, not to round the back. So I'm going to walk the hands forward. Avoid the urge to reach for your toes. Walk your hands forward and let the weight of your head round your back as you come to forward fold Uttanasana. So this should have taken the pull out of the lumbar, the low back, and allowed yourself to pull forward, opening a little more in the hamstrings. If that's not the case for you, if you feel the pull in the low back, I would suggest you put the hands back behind you and use them so that you can keep your body forward. Rolling yourself up mindfully. We're going to lay down for a little hamstring. So this is where a towel or a strap could be handy, but don't worry if you don't have one. I'm not going to use one. I am going to get off my blanket, just set it over there and roll down onto my back. No going back to sleep. Take a moment with your knees bent, laying on your back, and ascertain how are things feeling. Sometimes in the morning, certain body parts are a little more meaty, shall we say. So let's draw one knee into your chest. It won't matter which one. One knee into the chest and begin ankle circles. We often do this seated, so if you'd rather do this seated, that's okay. You can sit up. Put the hands behind the legs, and this is where I let the legs straighten and bend. And I'm looking for a complete straight, so it might be better for you to go here so that it can go straight. Mine just happens to go up here. Yours might even go all the way over your head. Having this other knee bent will help you. Now I'm going to leave the leg as straight can be and climb up that leg. Climb up until you can hold as high as possible. Could be your calf, your ankle. You may be able to grab your foot. Don't worry if you can't. Let your other foot stretch out and hover above the floor. Now hang on this foot. So I'm not holding myself up. I'm kind of hanging on my foot. And breathe. Bend both knees, let the feet come down, let your head come down, nodding the chin ever so lightly. And then bring the other knee up. Again, this could be done seated. It's just when you go forward, your foot will be on the floor. And then straighten and bend a few times. Sometimes the knees will make some noise. As long as it doesn't hurt, it's probably just fine. All right, leaving that leg straight, climb up. So engage through your core, climb up. You only make it here. Hold above or below the knee, preferably down toward the ankle, the calf, sometimes the foot. Extend out your other leg, letting it hang. So you're hanging on the upper leg. You should be feeling pulse in the back of the leg. If this is problematic for your head, release one hand and hold that head. Give it support. So I'm going to come to sit up. You may want to put your feet down and roll to your side. For me, I'll bend the knees, put the hands down, and push myself up. Check in with blood pressure. Over to my hands and knees. So depending on your wrist today and your toes, options or knuckles, as I always say, if you can work on the bendy toes, even if it's just for a little bit, it's just good to keep as much range of motion there if you can. So to hands and knees. Knees are under my hips, my knees are not together. Load your shoulders over your hands. So I'm going to lower my chest toward the mat. My elbows will want to do this, but I want you to try and move them in, excuse me, move them in a chaturanga fascia. Your bum will be up in the air, but don't worry about it. Nobody's behind you. So I lower my chest and press back up. So do this a few times just so the body will learn it. You may notice a dominant arm. It happens. If you can't go very far down, that's okay. Just go a little bit and a little bit. A little bit's a good start. Part the knees, hips go back, giving ourselves a moment in child's pose. For those who find child's pose with knees completely bent objectionable, do the puppy dog. So we're going to come back up to hands and knees and kind of work on what we're going to do standing. I mentioned earlier before we started our practice that we'll do a standing one that will help hip extension. Pick a leg, either leg, and move the knee up so you feel that it becomes parallel and back down. When it comes down to the same place as the knee. So it'd be moving from the hip joint, not from the knee joint. So my corresponding arm would be shoulder, not knee. So I'm not straightening and bending the knee. I'm moving the knee bent. Okay, onto the legs. So sliding until you feel your glutes engage and the knee is parallel. Try not to droop head. Let's leave the leg parallel and straighten the foot out. So if I were standing on my bent knee that's right now on the mat, I would be in my Virabhadrasana and I wouldn't have my hands under me. They would either be at my side or out in front. Release, back to child's pose. So you should have felt a little activation on that glute. We'll do the other side in just a moment. Okay, so those of you with cranky wrist, remember you can use your knuckles. Anchor your shoulders, get a nice all four grounded position, and then push with your buttocks. Think of the foot going toward the sky and the thigh becoming parallel with the ground. So next time my leg goes up, I'll hold the leg parallel, extend it straight out, lift, instead of sinking, lift, toes pointing toward the floor. Now I'm going to move to standing. So as I bring my leg back down, clear the mat if anything's on that. Try not to use your hands, stand yourself up. So with feet apart, we have done this before. It's a side stretch. So both knees will bend as the arms rise out to the side. Take your right foot back behind you without twisting the body. Move the right foot across the left foot, across your standing leg. Right now my heel is up, my knees are bent, and I'm going to straighten that back heel down to the floor, making the leg straighten. So you'll feel a little pull in the calf. The front knee is bent, and again, the body didn't shift. Dropping your left arm, raising your right arm, moving into lateral opening. Now, traditionally, we look up, but if that's uncomfortable, just keep looking forward. Elements of balance. Return the arms out to the side, step the back foot up, close the pose. Other side, both arms rise up and the knees bend a little. Bend to some breath. Now your left leg steps back, crosses over the front leg without letting the body turn. So it went back and then went across. That back knee currently on mine is bent, but I'm going to slowly straighten and press the heel toward the floor, maintaining the front knee bent. Calf stretch. This is really good for ankle mobility, which helps us steady ourselves. Dropping your right arm, lifting your left arm, going where you can, when you can. So you may find one side more amenable. And again, if you can look up, look up. If that feels too wobbly, don't look up. Are you breathing? Release the arms to the side and step the foot up. Hands go behind you, grab them or lace them, and separate your feet a little wider than your hips are. As you breathe in, pull the shoulders back where they would not normally be, and then see if you can lift the hands up off the back. From the side, what I did was pull my shoulders back and straighten the elbows. That should have allowed me to get my hands a little bit off my backside. Forward fold, lean into your toes, make sure your feet are parallel, and hinge over. Lean into your toes so you feel the hamstrings. Release the hands onto your thighs, bend your knees, drop your head, roll yourself up. Watch the blood pressure as you come up, sometimes that's a thing. Take a breath as the arms go overhead, and we'll repeat this twice more. Exhale, the hands go behind and grab. Inhale, the shoulders back, the arms go up. Exhale, we fold over for a few breaths. Release the hands to your thighs, a slight bend in the knees, bandhas rolling up. Mindfully returning, letting the arms go overhead, breathe in. And breathe out, the hands go behind you, our last time. Inhale, the shoulders go back and the arms come up off your back. Exhale, Uttanasana, lean into the toes, spread the sit bones, let the arms move a little further forward. Bending the knees, releasing the hands, and rolling yourself up. So your feet are wider than your shoulders. It won't matter which side you go to. We're going to go to the short end of the mat. Turn one leg by the heel so the toe is toward the end of the mat. Now my other foot is pointing forward because I had it parallel. So I'm going to turn that toe in a little, bend the front knee, begin to feel that groin pull as if in Warrior Two. Don't have to worry about your arms. Tracking the front knee, and I'm going to go into a crescent pose. So the back heel comes up, pivot on the ball of the foot. Now bend that front knee and press that back heel back, and then open the arms to the side. And let the arms go up overhead. Open the arms back to the side. Straighten the front leg, drop the heel, turn the arms, and face forward, drop the arms. Stay right here. I'm going to go to the other side, but I'm going to open the blinds a wee bit. We have sunshine today. So hands are down. Now turn your other foot to the short end of the mat. That leaves my back foot parallel, so swing it in a little, and then bend your front knee. We know this as the warrior. Notice how it feels different. It's a little deeper in your groins. So as I move into the crescent pose, I lift the back heel, pivot, body turns, sink down, squeeze the back leg straight, up the arms to the side. Arms go overhead. Return center. Toes are forward. Let's repeat that one more time on each side. So take your first leg, turn it. As you bend the knee, turn the back foot in a bit. Now spin on the back toe as you squeeze and straighten. This time let the arms go out in front and then up above. So you feel that your body is perpendicular to ground, that you're not leaning forward. Release center. And the other side. So you're probably not seeing me. Maybe turn the foot toward the short end. Spin the back foot in as you bend the knee. There's your groin opening. As you turn the body and lift the back heel, squeeze that back leg straight, front knee bent, arms forward and overhead. And release back center. Walk your feet in. So I've taken a little time to open into our groins so we can go to this next part of working into Warrior 3. Do you remember Warrior 3 is where you stand on one foot and you either do this or this, and some people do it stepping into it. Sometimes I go from the bottom up. This time we're going to work with a little more mindfulness to our glutes. So you can stand wherever you want, and if you're going to use a chair, put it at the direction you're facing or put it to the side. So I have my screen here, hopefully I'll not tip it over. So if I was working with this and I wanted to hold on to something, as I do this, I have something to hold on to. But you might want the chair in front of you or to your side. So if you need that, go ahead, get yourself set up. It won't matter which leg, so whatever is convenient for you. The things to remember is we're starting with our foot under our hip. Some people do this with the legs inward. You could, I leave it to you. I've just always done it this way, so this is me. Once you have your stance, bandhas and breath, let's put your hands in a non-creepy way into the back hip area. Bend both of your knees and then ground yourself onto one leg. So I'll be standing on my back leg so you can see what I'm doing with what would be your front leg. Now option one is to just lightly touch the toe, squeeze the glute, make sure the knee is not coming forward, it's just coming back up to where it was. That would be option one. You could do it with a straighter leg. Feeling the work happening in the moving hip. If you want to work a little more in your balance and you have something to hold on to, pick up your foot so the knee is parallel, the hips are equal, and then push the knee back and you'll really feel the engagement of your hip extensors. Very much like we just did a moment ago on our hands and knees. Now leaving the leg back, you can leave your hands down by your side, out to the side, out in front, or even overhead, whatever feels appropriate for you. Carefully, you can get a hamstring cramp, so if you need to drop out of it, fix it and then come back. As you tip forward, that back thigh lifts to become parallel Lengthen your chest forward. Keep going as far as you can. And then ultimately straighten that back leg. Visualize a letter T. Go ahead, put your foot down, hands on your thighs, bow your head, roll yourself up. That may not have happened. You may have found another way to get out of the pose. It's okay, we're going to practice other side. We'll come back and do the first side again. Standing, assessing, standing on one leg. So what can happen is when you shift onto one leg, you can sink and you see you get a little crooked here. So stay just as you are this way, even if you pick up a foot or even if you pick up a foot. So moving the foot back and forth. Variation 1. Variation 2 is you pick up the foot and move it back and forth. So it only comes up adjacent to the standing knee. Remember, the knee is not bending, it's moving from the hip joint. Breathing. Use your focus. Holding the leg back, knee bent. You're going to tip forward so that thigh feels like it's coming parallel to ground. Body is going forward. Remember, you can have your arms to the side, to the back, or out in front. Then slowly straighten your leg. Arms can be to the side, to the back. Keep lowering your chest, but lifting so you're not bending over. And then legs straight. I favor my arms by my side. It helps me notice if my hip is turned up. Squeeze your bum. Set the foot down. Bring the hands to your thighs. Tighten the belly. Roll yourself up. Other side. First side. So maybe if you don't need to feel that, you can just have your hands by your side, out to the side or out in front, wherever you feel you can. Okay, ground onto your first leg, pick up the other leg, and it goes back and forth. Could have your arms here, could have your arms here. Focus. Holding the leg back, keeping the knee bent, tip forward. Straightening the leg, doing the best you can. Setting your foot down, giving support, engaging your core, and rolling up. Little more effort, second side, second time. Picking up your foot and moving. From your hip. I know I'm dark, but my knee is not bending and straightening. Holding the leg back, keep the knee bent. Hinging forward, knee comes as best you can feel parallel. Once you have that, extend the legs out, reach the arms forward, keep them to the side or behind. Foot comes down, hands on thighs, tighten the belly, and roll yourself up. Well done. So if you do have a prop like a chair around your mat, just scoot it off. We're going to do a little flow. Kind of get our energy released after that balance. All right, to the front of the mat, Tadasana. Breathe in, the arms go up. Breathe out, we go over. Inhale, lift. Either foot steps back and you move into a plank position. From knees or toes, remember chest comes down and the hips. Relax the feet. Baby cobra and release. Toes under, hips up, elbows in. Press up, turn the hips up toward the sky. Walk your feet forward a little and walk your dog. Kind of feels good, huh? Stand on your right foot, lift up your left foot, raise the right heel, bend the left knee, look forward, do the best you can to step that left foot forward in a low lunge. Stand up into the crescent pose, arms can be in front, overhead, or to the side. Drop the back heel, warrior two, looking familiar. Now you're going to face the long end of the mat, drop the arms. Now you have the choice, go back to the front of the mat where you normally would. I'm going to go to the other side so I can demonstrate for you. So you push off, step to one end of the mat, either one. Arms lift when you breathe in, come down as you breathe out. Lift your chest as you breathe in. Either foot walks back as you come into that plank. Elbows in, chest and hips lower. Relax the feet, baby cobra or cobra. And come down. Toes under, hips up. Press off the mat. Downward dog. Adjust your feet and walk the dog on this side. It's okay to let your hips move. Stand on your left foot, lift up your right foot. Raise the left heel, bend the right knee, look forward. Step the right foot up to low lunge. Ground your feet, rise into the crescent pose. Drop the back heel, open into warrior two. Straightening the leg, turning forward. Now again, you can go back to that same side. You can alternate sides. So whichever side you want to go to, bend the opposite knee if you're going this way. Go that way. And step up to the mat. Once more, each side. Inhale, arms lift. Exhale, we fold. Inhale, we lift. Walk back to a plank. Chin up, elbows in, lower yourself down. Baby cobra, cobra, up dog. And back down. Toes under, hips up, knees or toes. Press off the mat, come down dog. Pause here, not walking the dog. Come to your breath. Stand on the right foot, lift up your left foot. Raise the right heel, bend the left knee, gaze forward, step the left foot up. Rise to the crescent pose. Open to the warrior two. Turn to the long end of the mat, close the pose. So either push off, step back to that same side. I'm going to the other side. Inhale, arms lift. Exhale, we fold. Inhale, lift chest. Exhale, back to down to our plank. Going down, going up, going down. Hips up and press off the mat to downward dog. Quiet yourself. Stand on your left foot, pick up your right foot, raise the left heel, bend the right knee, look forward, step the right foot up. You're in the low lunge, front knee bent. Rise up, reach out or up, Back leg straight. Open into warrior two. Back heel came down. Front knee is bent. Different feeling. Straighten the front leg. Stay at the side of the mat. Take the hands down. Hinge forward. Stay with the hands on the thighs, or go over the knees, or go down to your ankles, or put your hands on the floor, and if possible, put your head on the floor. This is where some people go into a headstand. So if you were to do that, you would probably take your feet up, move your feet into your elbows is another option. Release the hands to the small of the back. Squeeze that imaginary pillow. As you come up, be careful with your blood pressure, especially if you put any on your head. Let the arms come all the way up. Bend the knees, turn the heels in. Arms go up. Turn the toes forward, bend the knees. Arms go up. Turn the heels in. Bend the knees. Toes go forward. Heels in and pause in the garland pose. So here's your modified. That's where you're bracing. Here's a little deeper. Heels are down, hands at your heart. Shifting to come down onto the floor, sitting so that you're facing the long end of the mat, a little bit for the core. Always good for the core. So get on one elbow, whichever one allows you to visualize. The knees are forward. So let's practice a little bit on shoulder strength. My upper body is not on the floor. Lower body is. So here's me sinking and pulling up. Do a few times of this. So I'm driving my forearm, my elbow into the mat and pulling myself up. I'm doing this so I know I don't want to end up here. There's no structural support. I want to be here. Stay up here. Reach the free arm up. Keep your knees on the mat and lift up your hips. Now touch the hips and lift. 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 One more time, holding up. Can you take the top leg up and stretch it out? Strengthening our shoulders. Go ahead and bend in the knee. Bring the legs together. Drop the hips down. Drop the arms down. Push yourself up. Spin to the other side or get to the other side. However, elbow under your shoulder, forearm, knees a little forward, and rest here. A few times of collapsing and pulling out, understanding where your support is. Now stay strong and stable. Reach the high arm up. Lift the hips up. Now you're going to lightly touch the hips and raise them up. Holding it up. Option is to take the top leg and lift it and stretch it out. Pull up out of your limbs that are grounded. Bring your leg back down, drop your hips, drop your arm, and come and sit up. Okay, we're going to go a little more centric to the front of the abdominals. Rectus abdominis. Two things happen. So a lifting of the shoulders. we get the fullest part of rectus abdominis, and lifting up our bum, it tapers and narrows to your pubic bones. There's not a whole lot of muscle down there. It's not a big lift, and we will do it on numbers, but not fast. So if you are problematic laying on your back, use a pillow under your head and gaze outward rather than going up and out and up and out. That will kind of help. Otherwise, let me show you before we get going, and then you'll have a better idea. Two things will happen. And when I lift up my head, neck, and shoulders, I'm not pulling the elbows forward, but I'm also not letting the elbows lag behind. So let the hands have purpose by lifting and lowering your shoulders. And then the other part is bringing the knees in and lifting your tailbone up. And that probably is going to be the hardest part, lifting up your tailbone, and it's not done fast, so it's not herky-jerky. So we'll do a large number, and then when we get to the end is where the fun happens. I will say, lift up your shoulders and hold them up, bring up your hips and hold them up, squeeze together, and then release back down. Remember, releasing back down, you come to tabletop. You don't let your feet drop toward the floor. That puts a strain on the back. So I will just remind you to breathe as we commence. So 10 times shoulders lift and 10 times the hips lift, each one to their own. So begin. One more. Now leave your head down and lift your hips 10 times. 1, 'Bandas. 5 times the shoulders. 5 times the hips. 3 times the shoulders. 3 times the hips. 2 times the shoulders. 2 times the hips. 1 of each. Shoulders up and down, hips up and down. Again, shoulders up and down, hips up and down. Shoulders up and down, hips up and down. Shoulders up and down. Okay, here comes the fun part. You ready? Shoulders stay up, hips stay up, squeeze together, go down. Shoulders up, hips up, squeeze together, and down. Shoulders up, hips up, squeeze together, down twice more. Shoulders up, hips up, squeeze together. Last time, lifting shoulders, lifting hips, coming together, and release. So feet can come down, arms can come away, into a bridge pose, place those feet, pelvis goes up. Big breath. Keeping your legs parallel. Now, if you're finding that your bridge pose is a little easier, You know, a lot of that is the work we were doing before, working the hip extensors, which raises the hips up in the bridge pose. Come down from the upper back, through the middle back, through the lower back. Place your right ankle upon your left thigh. Here is our hip opening. So I'm going to bring the knee up. We know this as the pretzel pose. Some of you will take both hands and reach behind your left leg. But I use my right elbow to push my right knee open because it's about the angles. So I don't even hold behind my legs. I do it this way. Check that your shoulders are relaxed. Sometimes you will feel this stretch in different spots. Now, whichever foot you have up, I did ask for the right foot to come up. I'm going to roll onto my left side so my right foot comes down on the floor. So as I roll, you'll see me coming, my legs come down, then my foot comes down. Now be careful with this one. Your left hand on the inside of the right knee holds the knee up, otherwise it comes down. So I'm kind of pushing that knee up. Lift your left arm, lift your right arm, the one of the knee that's on top, and reach back behind, kind of on a diagonal. Bending that high arm, coming around, picking the top leg off, and then returning to your back. And we'll do the other side. I'm going to spin around so I don't run into the fireplace. So now you have your left ankle on your right knee, unless you did it the other way before. So this is traditional, and this is me just getting there. Each leg is so different, don't you think? So I'm going to move this foot that's on the leg down. So as I roll to the side, the bottom leg will come down. Then the foot will actually touch the floor. And I'll use the opposite arm to keep my knee up, otherwise the knee comes down. Lifting if you've got your left leg up on top left arm, reaching up and behind you. So it's that diagonal. Keep a little pressure on this knee and breathe. Slowly release the high arm. As you come around, lift that top leg up, roll onto your back, pick up your head and hold the head. So all you're going to do is hold your head up. Now most people like crossing the ankles, but you don't have to, but keep your feet low. You'll want to kick your feet. That doesn't happen. They're going to stay low. So remember how we curled the tailbone up? I'm going to curl the tailbone up, then I'm going to swivel my hips so they move to one edge of the mat. Then I'm going to pick up and move my hips the other way. It's a little tricky, so if you say, I can't do this one, put your hands down on the mat and then push on your hands so that you can move your hips from side to side. Go ahead, play with it. I haven't done this in a while, and it's a challenge. Because the muscles say, what are you doing? Let the knees come in, let the head go down. You can either just stay with your elbows at the knees and the feet in Bandha Konasana. You can open your legs out to the side if that feels appropriate to get an inner thigh opening. So we're going to do double leg drops while you're holding your inner thigh stretch. I'm going to sit up. So double leg drops can be very vulnerable for low back issues. You do not have to go all the way to the floor. I'm not going to go to the floor the first few times. So when you lower your legs, they only go as far as you can lift them back up. And I'm going to use the feet. I'm going to push with my heels and then point the toes and pull the feet back up. So there'll be this double leg drop, and I would suggest that you exhale as you are lifting the legs. So go ahead, bring the legs up. I'm going to put the hands behind and make a pillow, unless you have a pillow here. So here's the flex, where the toes are pulled back, and here's the point. Those of you with hamstring issues, yes, you can do this with your knees bent. That means when you go down, it'll be this. What it is not is this, and the bend and straighten the legs. So zippers, bandhas, you lower the heels away, stretch the toes forward and lift them back up. How low you go is up to you. I'm just demonstrating an appropriate variation. If you are the person who, without any pain to the back, can go lower, you just go ahead. Let's do about 4 more. Now your next one, I'm going to let my arms come out and I'm going to lower the legs and lift myself up, but maybe you need to come up a different way. Hands behind, lift up your chest, hinge yourself forward. We did this at the beginning, do you remember? Maybe you stay here, maybe you go here. Rising up, so we'll do a little bit for our rest. Now I'm going to come to a kneeling position, but it's not one that you have to do. You can do this just by sitting. You'll have, can you see? You could do that sitting. In fact, maybe even sitting on a blanket would be a better idea. But I'm going to show it kneeling. So flexion of wrist, palms are down, and I just have the weight. So that's probably not too hard. Then what I'm going to do is flip one hand, so the back of my wrist comes down, and then my elbow will be bent, so I want you to try and straighten the elbow, and then I will switch. Now if I were on hands and knees, I'm going to be on the blanket here, so turn my wrist under and see if I could, there's a difference between a bent elbow and a straight elbow as to the forearms. Or if you weren't using anything down here. Don't have to stay too long. And again, you can do it from a seated position. Any way that you want to do it, just so you can get your forearms. and come to sit. Now I'm on my blanket. You can be sitting on your mat without anything. Bring the knees up, and earlier in our practice we did kind of a seated cat and cow. For this one I want you to keep a neutral spine. So I know I have a little curve in my lumbar, we all do or should. So I'm going to keep that natural curve. I'm not going to let it sink back into the cat pose. And I'm going to tighten through the abdominal wall. And I will take an opposite arm to the opposite leg and then reach the arm of the same leg back and hold. And if I thought things were okay, I might reach out with the other arm. So I'm hinged back on a diagonal. And when you come out, you're going to grab the leg and sweep yourself back up. And we do the other side. Grab the other knee, reach the other arm, reach and sweep and hinge back. And if it feels appropriate, let go. Grab the knee to release safely and come back up. Now we did it and we held it, but now we're going to do it with a little more dynamics. So my knees are apart. If I needed the knee, I would grab, reach, and sweep. As I come up, I'm going to sweep to the other side. And that's the protective way. If you say, I really don't need to hold that knee, Karen, then you're not going to. You're going to have the arms here, reach back and sweep, and come back up, and reach back and sweep, and come back up. So just keep that motion going with every variation, either variation that works for you. Here's that first option. I think one more on each side will do it. And we're going to go to child's pose, asymmetrical, unless that one doesn't work for you. So coming to all fours, bring one knee back a little behind the other, not much, just a little. Keep your hips even as you back up, and then let the arms stretch out. You're going to feel one hip, one side stretch more than the other. Walk the hands back in, support your back as you come up, bring the back knee up. And if you're doing asymmetrical, now do the other leg back. As you back those hips up, let the arms slide forward. It's so weird, isn't this weird? Slide the hands back in, and again, if you can work on your bendy toes, the toes turned under, you back up toward those toes. Not everyone can do this, so if you can get here and tolerate it for a moment, do so. For those who say, I could do this, okay, well for those of you who can do this easily, perhaps this might be your next place to go. Again, if you need to come out of it, you come out of it. Slow down your breath. So as you come forward, get off those toes. And we're going to be in a kneeling position just for a moment. So if you have that blanket or towel nearby, or want to take your mat and double it up so you have a little more knee padding. Knees are down under your hips. So this is when we're doing slight back bends. If you have spinal stenosis, a narrowing in your spine, it might be prudent for you to shift the pelvis forward and then lift up the chest and then gaze your eyes outward and maybe upward. So you create this curve in your back, but it's a supported curve, so you're not bending in it. Just so you know, traditionally, the pelvis remains the same. The heart lifts up and expands, and then you lean back from there. Not everyone should do that one. So modify as need be. So lifting your chest, either making the decision to move the hips forward or not, and then letting yourself fall back a little. You do not have to look up, some people do. Again, working on extension. Return the hips if you push them, so you're back, and then bring your chest up. One more time. I'm not going to move my hips because I'm making a conscious decision. Lifting up, either moving the hips forward or just taking the chest open. With breath. And return. Bring the arms out in front. Cross them. Here, this is what I did. Eagle arms. And round forward. Come up and do the other arm on top. Cross them. Elbows down. And now present yourself for Shavasana. So lay down on your mat, on your belly, on your side, with something under your knees, with an eye pillow over your eyes. Now is the time for you to have some quiet time. Just a few moments. Important moments, I think. I think they're important because stopping down everything can be quite a challenge. I think we all know that. So get yourself situated. And because you're at home, there's going to be sounds, the garbage people, people walking around your house, whatever sounds, airplanes going over, cars driving by. So just let those be background noise and try not to get invested in them. Then there becomes the monkey mind. So once you lay comfortably, walk through your body, make sure it's feeling comfortable, that it's not struggling to lay. So maybe you should be on your side or on your belly or with your knees bent. There is not a perfect way. And then once you get yourself in that comfortable position, as we did when we began, come back to just you. And we do that by monitoring the breath. So notice that breath, whatever its natural cadence is. See if you can make it a little longer breath. And as we did at the beginning of our practice, see if you can pause when you reach the deepest inhale. And then as you release, completely voiding yourself, tightening through the belly and get all the air out, and then pause there. Repeating the pausing breath at the inhale and at the end of the exhale. Return to your natural breath. And here's where I leave you for a few moments to perhaps sit in nature, in the mountains, at the ocean, by a river, in the desert. Just sitting, you doing nothing. And occasionally those thoughts will bubble up. It happens. But come back to your breath or come back into nature and wait for the singing bowl, allowing this time to be yours. There with the singing bowl is your welcome back call. As you deepen the breath and wiggle your fingers and toes and awaken yourself, maybe just roll on your side or stay as you are. So I have some thoughts. Today, this is from Catherine the Great, who is quoted as saying, "The great wind is blowing, and that gives you either imagination or a headache." There are two ways we can approach times of turmoil and upheaval: as opportunities for new ideas and new actions, or as excuses for withdrawing from life and avoiding risk. Seems like people with creativity and imagination often thrive in times of great change, and people who don't consider themselves creative or imaginative tend to be concerned only with hunkering down and protecting themselves. So then our thought for today: I won't let troubled times get the best of me. I'll treat them as a challenge to come up with new ideas. And that might be a fresh approach for you, or that may have no relationship at all with your life where you are now. So as you come to sit nice and tall, mindful from our practice that teaches us to be aware and to make good choices, our third eye chakra. So we worked a bit on strengthening, particularly the posterior change, on doing it mindfully with new awareness. We did a little bit of upper body, we had some playfulness, got a little bit for our core. I think we had a lovely practice, and I'm so glad that you joined today. So as you sit nice and tall and stretch your arms out to the sides of your space and reaching them up above and gathering all of your goodness and holding it deep inside, sharing that word that means the goodness in me honors the goodness in you, we say Namaste. And so until we practice again, have a great rest of your day.